All right, welcome to the Cspan Review. My name is Mike, and it is June 17th here in Tampa, Florida. Nice and hot outside. Today's opening topic is what new news story mattered to you or matters to you. So, without further ado, let's just go ahead and start today's review.
Up this morning on Washington Journal, along with your calls and comments live. We'll talk with...
We're about an hour and a half today on this show. We've got an hour of open forum and then of the opening topic, and then we got about a 30 minute open forum too at the end. So stick around for all of it. It's going to be good.
Up this morning on Washington Journal, along with your calls and comments live. We'll talk with Family Research Council President Tony Perkins on the Southern Poverty Law Center labeling his organization a hate group and other news of the day. And we'll discuss the latest in the U.S.-Iran ceasefire deal and how the war has transformed Tehran with Vali Nasser, professor at the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies. C-SPAN's Washington Journal is next. Join the conversation live.
And we'll get into the guest at some point.
Good morning. It's
just trying to get all the open forums down to get my process working.
Published the 14-point draft memorandum of understanding between the U.S. and Iran. We'll show you those details shortly. President Trump is in France for the G7, where he's scheduled to hold a press conference later this morning. We will bring you live coverage of that as soon as it begins.
Keir Starmer, that
also this morning
bastard.
Here at home, President Trump has delayed the nomination of Jay Clayton for Director of National Intelligence, who was set to have his confirmation hearing today. Bill Pulte will remain as acting DNI. As always, we want to hear from you. We're taking your calls and getting your top news story of the day. Here are the numbers. Republicans, call us on 202-748-8001. Democrats, 202-748-8000. And Independents, 202-748-8002. You can text us your comments at 202-748-8003. Include your first name and your city, state. We're also on social media, facebook.com/cspan and X at CSpanWJ.
This is not live. Y'all don't call in. But I called in this morning and made it on the show. Little sneak peek.
Good morning. It's a lot to talk about today. We're going to start with that Iran deal. It has been published by Bloomberg. Here are the points that they have said, and then we'll get your reaction to that or other news of the day that you'd like to talk about. So here it says that it had been scheduled. It's scheduled to be signed on June 19th. That's Friday in Switzerland, paving the way for 60 days of talks aimed at ending their war for good and putting strict new limits on Iran's nuclear program. And it says this. So the first thing, Iran and the U.S., together with their allies in the current war, declare upon the signing of this MOU an immediate and permanent end to the war on all fronts, including Lebanon, and undertake that from now on they will not launch any hostile action against each other, will refrain from the threat or use of force against each other. Final agreement will confirm the provisions of this article and remaining articles.
Refrain.
Number 2, Iran and U.S. undertake to respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity, refrain from interfering in each other's internal affairs. 3, Iran and U.S. undertake to negotiate and reach a final agreement with a maximum period of 60 days, extendable by mutual consent. 3, immediately upon the signing of this MOU, U.S. will lift the naval blockade, prevent any interference or obstruction against Iran, restore traffic within a maximum of 30 days to its full capacity. The traffic of ships shall be proportional to the pre-war volume of traffic on the part of the Islamic Republic of Iran. U.S. also undertakes to withdraw its forces from the surrounding areas within 30 days after the final agreement. Upon signing, Iran will immediately take steps to ensure that the movement of merchant ships from the Persian Gulf to the Sea of Oman and vice versa is resumed within 30 days to the pre-war volume, taking into account the need for removal of technical obstacles, neutralization of mines by Iran. 6, U.S., together with regional partners, to create a comprehensive plan agreed upon by both parties for the rehabilitation and economic development of Iran while ensuring financing of at least $300 billion. Implementation mechanisms of this plan as part of the final agreement will be formulated within 60 days. 7, U.S. commits to ending on a schedule to be agreed upon as part of final agreement all types of sanctions currently facing Iran, including resolution by the UN Security Council, Board of Governors of the IAEA, and all unilateral U.S. sanctions, both primary and secondary.
Oh my God, I didn't know we
8,
were going to
the
read all
Republic
14.
of the Islamic Republic of Iran reiterates that it will never produce nuclear weapons. Iran and U.S. have
Never.
agreed that the fate of enriched material and the fate of all mutually agreed nuclear-related issues, including Iran's nuclear needs, will be adequately addressed in a final agreement. The Iran and U.S. agree that
That's the nuclear dust. I'm going to get all the nuclear dust. I'm not blowing out your earbud by yell it.
pending a final agreement, they will maintain the status quo. Iran will maintain the status quo on its nuclear program. The U.S. will not impose new sanctions on Iran or strengthen its forces in the region. 10, U.S. undertakes that immediately after signing of this memorandum and until the date of the lifting of sanctions, U.S. Treasury Department will issue waivers for exports of Iranian crude oil, petrochemical products, and their derivatives and all related services, including banking, insurance, transportation, and the like. And the U.S., in light of the progress of negotiations toward a final agreement, frozen or restricted funds and assets of Iran will be released and made fully available. These funds, whether held in the master account or transferred, will be used for any final beneficiary payment determined by the Central Bank of Iran and will be fully available for use. U.S. undertakes to issue all necessary permits, licenses on that basis. And then the rest, it says implementation mechanisms and final agreements and so forth up until point number 14. So that is the Iran deal. That's the agreement that will be signed, presumably in Switzerland on Friday. And we're getting your reaction to that, as well as any other news of the day, including, as we've mentioned in the open, the nomination of Jay Clayton for DNI has been put off by the president this morning in a Truth Social. We'll show that to you as well, but I want to get to some calls right away. To Joseph, Fruitland Park, Florida, Independent Line. Good morning.
Fruitland.
Well, thanks for taking my call. Huckabee was at some meeting last night saying that America wouldn't be America unless it was for Israel, and he says he represents Israel to America instead of America to Israel. The Wall Street Journal has done 2 articles on Huckabee ties to the toll takers and settlers over there. And can I just bring up one subject? You know, the chant in U.S. media is 47 years about the takeover of the embassy. There are 5 incursions into the embassy. 2 were a bunch of dopey college kids running in there and taking pictures. The third one got violent. The locals helped calm things down. There was another incursion. Same thing. People rushed in. It was the 5th one that the Iranians took over. They had 80 hostages. We had negotiated down to 52. They wanted the Shah of Iran back. Carter took Kissinger's advice and said, don't release him. And that's what set off this whole hostage taking. And one last thing about that bombing in the embassy. a bombing of the Beirut barracks. The U.S. Navy was there first, was shelling some of these groups. We moved the troops in there. The commanders on the ground said, we're unattainable position. We're taking fire. Let us come back onto the ships. No. So we shot at them, and they shot back. God, there's a lot of disinformation about our relationship with Iran. I'm sorry, what?
All right, Joseph, we got that. And
I'm
here's
sorry,
Mike
what?
in Tampa, Florida, Republican. You're on the air, Mike.
It's me.
Hey, good
This
morning.
is me.
I've got a few things I want to rattle off real quick. Here domestically, I think that the number one story that bothers me and that we haven't heard much about is the UFC terror plot, where they were going to have drones create a distraction and then funnel the mass evacuation into snipers' nests.
Yep.
So I'd like to hear a little bit more about that.
Yep. And thanks for bringing that up. Yes, I do have that for people, but go ahead. You said you wanted to say something else?
Yeah, a couple more things. And then across the pond there, I'd like to hear a little bit more about the 200,000 girls and boys that were raped by majority Muslim men since 1954. That report just came out, and it's absolutely horrific. And also,
is this
the Democrats.
Britain?
Yes.
In England?
And also, yes, ma'am. It's the British Rape Game report by Rupert Lowe, and also the Democrats supporting Iran. It's just unbelievable because they hate Trump so much. They just want to support anything against him. The Iranians developed explosive force penetrators that basically shot a copper slug through our boys' armored vehicles. So, and this is not against the Iranian people. If it was, the cities would be smoldering, but people are still out there working. This is against the terror regime.
And Mike, are you happy with the agreement as we?
I am happy that Iran is finally facing some justice, and then also I think that this is much greater than just Trump going to get Iran. This is about controlling choke points around the globe with Gibraltar, with Hormuz, with the Straits of Malacca, with the Panama Canal. Those are all under U.S. control now instead of other countries. So if we ever went to war, we can move, they can't. And that's pretty much what it is. This is a 150-year-old wrenching away of the British government, their control over everything.
All right.
It's really, really deep if you want to get into it, but I know I don't have that much time. Thanks for listening.
All right, and here's the front.
All right, that was me, folks. That was me. I always complain about I never get in, and here I was going to try to make the example that it took forever to get in. I was the second. 2 rings, they had me in. I was second one on. So that was my call. And maybe in the daily breakdown, we'll go over a little bit more of my call and the points I was trying to make in less than a minute or two. So, all right.
Front page of the Washington
Enough
Times
about
on
me.
what Mike said. 5 charged in scheme to bomb UFC event. Assassination of Trump meant to, quote, jumpstart a revolt. It said a plot to unleash explosive drones and sniper fire at the UFC Freedom 250 event at the White House was meant to jumpstart a revolution by killing President Trump and other top political figures. According to federal prosecutors, U.S. authorities said the plotters also meant to kill Vice President Vance, technology magnate Elon Musk, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and Republican lawmakers who support Israel. Court documents charged 5 people in the foiled attack. It lists their names. Each of the 5 is accused of conspiracy to commit murder. You could read the rest of that at the Washington Times. It's on the front page this morning. Sue in Michigan, Independent Line. Sue, good morning.
Good morning. I'm calling about the ballroom, the East Wing being down. I was reading an article that it initially was $200 million, then $400 million, now it's $600 million. But what's really bad about this deal is that at the time, the administration knew that the taxpayers were going to pay for half of it. I was reading an article about that they knew about it, and they kind of hid it, about it. With the way the economy is right now, this is not a good look for the administration. And they've not been, to be very truthful. And this here, I don't understand how Congress could approve this or, taxpayer money for $600 million ballroom.
Yep.
I just don't understand it.
Sue, we have that here. This is on the front page of the Washington Post. I'll just share that so everybody knows what you're talking about. The headline, ballroom price tag pegged at $600 million. Taxpayers on the hook for half, invoices show, despite Trump's pledge. 5 months after the demolition of the White House East Wing, President Trump claimed that the project to construct a massive ballroom and a bunker in its place would cost up to $400 million and that private donors would pay for all of it. Quote, "This is taxpayer free. We have no taxpayer putting up 10 cents, Trump told reporters in the Oval on March.
That's $400 million for the ballroom. The rest of it is security and all the other armor and things involved.
31st, but a detailed project summary
ballroom
prepared for the White House by the contractor more than 3 weeks before Trump's comments estimated the total construction cost at $600 million, with more than half coming from taxpayers, according to a copy of the contractor estimate obtained by the Washington Post. That's on the front page of today's paper if you'd like to read that. Let's talk to Kenny next in Staten Island, New York, Republican. Good morning, Kenny.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for taking my call. First of all, the political violence with that conspiracy thing, I never condone that. Political violence is wrong, number one. The point of the story that matters to me is the Iranian war. They're making a big thing about the Iran and U.S. MOA, and that's meaningless, number one, because everybody seems to forget political amnesia. How did this war start? Israel attacking Iran, and we just had to go in with them. So Israel really is the decider of whether this peace lasts or not, and it's not going to, because they bombed Beirut on Sunday while Trump was negotiating a peace deal or a ceasefire. It's not a peace deal; it's a ceasefire. It's an MOA. It doesn't mean it's meaningless. And like I said, Israel's torpedoing it because Israel's the one that started the war. This is the first time in American history that we allowed a foreign country to bring us into a war. Even Churchill couldn't do that during World War II. In terms of the ballroom and all that, remember the wall? Mexico was supposed to pay. The ballroom, donors are supposed to pay. Pool, supposed to arc, everything, all this stuff. It's such a lie. I mean, at what point do they realize that I'm a Republican? I'm not a MAGA Republican. I don't know what happened there. I'm a Cheney Republican. I'm a real Republican, conservative, regular Republican.
Democrat. That's
at what point they realize this guy's constantly lying about everything.
New York.
Even the peace deal, ceasefire, and meaningless. Israel
So, Kenny,
Thank you.
Kenny, here's my question for you. So, number one is that upon the signing of this MOU, immediate and permanent end to the war on all fronts, including Lebanon. Do you not believe that Israel will abide by that?
No, not at all. They said that already. And not only that, the hawks over here, on this side and that side, are saying it's not good. Look, they've occupied the southern part of Lebanon. They did the same thing in Gaza. It's a territorial thing. It's a land grab. It's the same thing Putin's doing. Just look and see what's in front of our eyes. It's southern. Why are they bombing buildings and telling people you can't return?
Why?
Okay, if you're bombing buildings, you can't return. What does that mean? What does that say? What do we see? It's before our eyes. So why are we puzzled to what's going on? We could see it in front of our eyes, what's happening. And like I said, that's all I have to say with that.
All right, Kenny.
Oh my
Paul
God.
is next in Houston, Texas.
Oh, Jesus.
Democrat. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, I was listening at Donald Trump's
Houston,
speech
Texas.
this morning, and he said that Iran called Barack Obama a stupid SOB. But the real thing is Trump lies so much. I don't see how anybody. I'm beginning to believe some of these Republicans are borderline stupid for even supporting this cat. I mean, this man lie about everything. How can you believe anything this man say? Good gracious, Republicans, wake up!
Gracious.
You know,
right.
y'all talk.
All right, Paul. Oh, sorry, I thought you were done. Carrie in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, independent. What is your top news story of the day, Carrie?
Yeah, that's the agreement with Iran. I mean, this has just become a complete mess. I mean, he started, I don't know how long ago he started out with diplomatic negotiations, you know, and then it just keeps going on and on and on. I mean, I remember in history, there was another guy like that, like President Trump in 1940, and he came out with a piece of paper and he said, this guarantees peace in our time. And his name was Neville Chamberlain. And he had a peace agreement with Adolf Hitler. And that piece of paper wasn't worth
Hitler
the ink it
reference.
was written
Ding!
on. So, I mean, this has just become.
We're going to start working on our checklist. It's kind of like a bingo game. We'll have it every time we hear there's almost not a show goes by where somebody doesn't say, this is worse than Hitler. So we'll just start marking this off that like a checklist every day of all these different things that we hear.
To where if you think this deal is going to be worth anything, these people are
on my list.
Terrorists. They are religious terrorists. And if you're just going to keep dealing with them like you're dealing with some other country, a Western country, in negotiations, I think this is crazy.
So what do you think should happen, Carrie? What would you advise the president to do?
Well, I'll tell you what he should have done is what he was started out to do. You know, he stood right there on national news, and I watched him, and he stood there and told all the Iranian people, he said, now it's time to rise up. I've got your back. And next thing you know, there's 40,000 of them machine gunned in the streets. And I haven't heard a peep from that man about the Iranian people. All he keeps talking about is we're going to get oil moving, we're going to get oil moving, money, money, money. And either he should have gone in there and done away with this regime. We're going to deal with them again. My grandkids are going to deal with these people. I mean, you know, he should have just done away with the regime and then let the Iranian people deal with how they want to deal with it, their country.
All right, Carrie. Yep. And also in other news, domestically, this is Punchbowl. With this report, it says about the Clayton nomination to be the Director of National Intelligence. It says the president suddenly announced early Wednesday morning this morning that he's delaying the nomination of Jay Clayton as Director of National Intelligence until his pick for the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, James McDonald, is approved by the Senate. McDonald would be Clayton's successor in the key Justice Department post. Senate Minority Leader Schumer and Senator Gillibrand of New York have to approve of the nominee. And it says Clayton was set for a hearing today in the Senate Intelligence Committee. Clayton's quick confirmation was supposed to be the piece that unlocked a bipartisan deal to reauthorize FISA, Section 702. Clayton would supersede Bill Pulte. Thanks to Trump's bombshell, that won't happen immediately, as Senate Majority Leader Thune desperately hoped. Trump, who is heading back to Washington today from the G7 meeting, also reiterated his new ask to get FISA passed, the Save America Act. It says this is a total no-go for Democrats and even some Republicans. That's Punchbowl News reporting that. We'll put up the Truth Social from President Trump, but here's a portion of it. It says, therefore, to add a slight bit of intrigue, but for the good of the nation and the people of our country, I will not approve FISA without the Save America Act going along with it. Not complicated, actually. The Republicans fell into a trap. Regarding the approval of our great patriot, Jay Clayton, we are canceling the Senate hearing re-DNI today and will not be going forward until Jamie McDonald is approved to be U.S. Attorney. In the meantime, Bull Pulte will remain as the acting director of national intelligence. Well, Senator John Thune, the majority leader, was on Fox News yesterday talking about the fact that there aren't the votes to get rid of the filibuster and pass the Save America Act. Here he is.
The only way you can get, obviously get this done is to nuke the legislative filibuster, and that is not something that we have anywhere close to the votes to do. So we've had votes. We had it on the floor. It was the pending business in the Senate for a couple of weeks. We've done everything we can to date. We'll continue to put the Democrats on record. The Democrats are voting against an issue that 80 to 85% of the American people are for, and we need to hold them accountable for that.
But the president doesn't seem to understand your math.
Yeah, and I get that. And he's very
on conversations with him, how does this go over? Because the way he types it in his True Social post, it's pretty aggressive. He thinks you should be doing more.
And he's passionate about it, and we are doing everything that we can, but it is a function of math. I mean, we are bound by arithmetic in the United States Senate. The votes currently aren't there. We will continue to put the Democrats on the record and insist on votes on this. But if you tried to attach it, for example, to FISA, it would tank FISA.
We're getting your top news story of the day. We'll go
to
Thomas, Jonesboro, Tennessee, Republican. Good morning.
Good morning. I just have a couple of quick thoughts. I'm a retired Army lieutenant colonel that actually lived in Iran and Israel because my father was an attaché. That doesn't make me more knowledgeable. That gives me some perspective. I think this idea that little old Israel gets whatever it wants is really getting on my final nerve. I'm not interested in the Christian dispensationalists that imagine that if Israel's restored to some pre-borders or the Greater Israel Project, then we'll have the second coming of Christ. I'm Catholic. I'm patriotic. I usually give Israel the benefit of the doubt, but I agree with the previous caller that Israel will absolutely blow up this deal if they can. I'm also displeased with the destruction of anyone, but also the ancient Christian communities in Lebanon. What is this business where Israel has such an untoward influence? And even saying that, I feel like I'm orienting a drone on myself from Israel. I've seen good politicians' career destroyed because they said, what is our relationship with Israel? Well, guess what? I think we're at a point where we're going to redefine our relationship with Israel. I'm not going to get into what happened in Gaza or not, but I think I'm not interested in keeping Netanyahu in power. I'm interested in what's best for the United States, and that's truly American. I'm not interested in supporting another religion or specifically what they're talking. Final point, when you were pulling up news stories and the fellow talked about the history of rape in England, I would have liked to have seen you reference that because I don't think that Islam is especially compatible with Western values. I appreciate so much speaking. Go ahead.
Yes, thanks, Thomas, but I wanted to ask you about what you thought about the Iran deal.
I think Trump is addicted to the idea of the deal, and anybody that's seen The Apprentice will say, yeah, no kidding. But I think in this particular case, I don't think it's as good as he could have done it. I think he needs to roll in the idea of thank you for asking, air superiority or blockades again. But at some point, Iran is not our equivalent, and the idea that they bested us or we had a war with them, they've only faced our Air Force and our Navy. They've never faced our ground forces. Thanks to the Iran war, which I fought in 3 years, Iraq war rather, that was a Freudian slip. I don't think we're going to do a lot of boots on the ground, but please, everybody that's not military, stop making the statement that no boots on the ground. That's like your little war cry. There's a time to have combat troops on the ground, but there's no longer a time to try to build countries. We never learned the lesson from Vietnam. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, Thomas, and just
call,
regarding
Tom.
that report, I just wanted to show you where to find that. So this is from the UK Parliament. If you go to edm.parliament.uk, you'll find something called the Independent Rape Gang Inquiry Report that came out just yesterday on the 16th. And
the reason that matters, folks, is because since 1954, 250,000 girls and boys were raped and tortured and sexually trafficked in England. And the mayor of London was involved with it at some point, and then Keir Starmer, I know, was involved at some point, and he's the prime minister. So that's why all this stuff matters. He's running that place over there. And I don't know if you saw it, but somebody was almost beheaded in Belfast last week. A young 18-year-old boy was stabbed, and as soon as the cops showed up, they handcuffed the stabbed kid and let him bleed out on the street, and then took the attacker back to the police station. No handcuffs. What do you want to eat? Gave him a choice because he was of a different, let's say, skin color. I think he was a Sikh man. But they're so afraid of being racist over there that they'll let people, you can be killed and nothing happens. It's absolutely disgraceful. Disgraceful.
Essentially, it says that it's established to examine the organized sexual exploitation of children across the United Kingdom, pays tribute to the survivors, whistleblowers, parents, campaigners, and professionals who gave evidence, expresses profound concern at testimony detailing decades of rape, trafficking, violence, murder, and abuse, alongside repeated failures by police forces, local authorities, social services, health bodies, and successive governments to protect vulnerable children. It further notes the inquiry's findings regarding the scale of organized child sexual exploitation and the institutional reluctance to confront its causes and characteristics. So that report, if you'd like to see the report itself, again, that's put out by the Parliament of the UK. It's called Independent Rape Gang Inquiry Report, and it's dated the 16th of June. Robert, Washington, D.C., Democrat, good morning.
Good morning. I'll be quick, actually. I have three words that begin with B that will help everybody understand President Donald Trump. The first word is bombshell. I heard something the other day on Cspan that says chaos is a ladder. And the chaos that Donald Trump creates is a ladder. The second word is bamboozled. Bamboozled, just look up the meaning of that. We'll understand Donald Trump a little better. And then the third word that starts with a B is boondoggle, and that's what's happening in Iran.
Iran.
In what way?
Iran.
Tell me more about this, what you're calling a boondoggle.
Well, I'm former Marine, and, it's like I agree with what Thomas said just previously. You can't go into this country and believe that they will just lay down like Venezuela. There will eventually be boots on the ground, and you cannot believe somebody who has been lying to you for 47 years and think, okay, this time they're going to tell me the truth. People have characteristics. Countries have characteristics.
So, Robert, you don't believe that the United States will abide by this agreement, which is includes pulling out forces in 30 days?
No, I do not. I do not believe that the United States can do that. And the reason is these folks have been lying to us for this long. What makes us think that, okay, this time, 14-point agreement, I didn't hear anything in those 14 points that suggests to me that the United States is winning something. It sounds like we're losing, unfortunately.
Well, Robert, we do have a guest to talk about Iran later this morning. We'll ask about that, what the U.S. gains from this agreement. Here's David in Georgia, Independent. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Mrs. Mimi. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks.
Great. I have 2 points I'm going to make, and I'm making them real quick. Number one, please do a story on O.J. Simpson, what went down with that, because Mark Furman just died recently, and they're putting out all the stuff of how he did, what he did, blah, blah, blah. But I just wanted to put that out there. Please do a story on that. Number two, what's happened to that little kid in Texas that killed they call it the stabbing at the track meet? How they railroad this kid, the whole town railroad this kid to put him in jail, and now it's starting to unravel the tape to show that the little boy was innocent, and how they took the family's money, and that's what happens when you have a little sundown town like that with absolute power over somebody. There's very few blacks there. And they did that to this kid. So now they're starting to unravel. A lot of people, including whites, are starting to come out and say, hey, no, this is not right. So do a story on that. If that's a very human interest, it's a divisive story, but, it shows you that where we are as a nation, we need a lot of help in the judicial system and a lot of people that can come out.
Give me a little bit more help, David. Stabbing in Texas, you said it was a little kid?
Carmelo Anthony.
The little kid, he was at a
Carmelo Anthony. He wasn't a little kid.
Track meet. His little kid about 5'8", 5'9", 140 pounds, and two twin brothers who was football players.
Oh, yes. This is Carmelo Anthony and the...
Exactly. And like I said, do a story on that because that's very pivotal because that's going to expose America as a whole that we have a lot of work to do, especially with our judicial system. Thanks a lot, Ms. Mimi.
Okay. And, we'll try to bring something up if there's
do a lot more with education
things on that.
and reading.
Edward in New York, Republican. What's your top news story of the day, Edward?
Yes. Hi, Mimi. Thanks for having me on. Iran deal, and I want to say something about Israel also. I saw two remarkable things on the weekend. One was the interview that Vance did with Jake Tapper on CNN, and he went to great lengths to say, this is all a give and get deal. Iran will have to give in order to get. We'll have verifiables. There won't be any money flowing out unless there are real gives. And he also went into sort of waxed eloquently into the blue skies, saying, we're seeing a transformation here in Iran. And he said at the senior levels of the government and the IRGC, which I find hard to believe, knowing what I know about the IRGC, that there's a transformation here. He said that they realized they'd made a mistake. And they'll do business differently with the U.S. I thought to myself, we sent this guy with the two real estate guys to negotiate this thing. What is he talking about? And so there was the carrot and stick thing that he was talking about, and then this fantasy blue sky stuff about it was almost like transforming a nation in the Middle East. The second thing I wanted to talk about is Trump's phone call to David Sanger of the New York Times, the giant over there, senior national correspondent, 44 years, 3 Pulitzer's books. He calls him and he says, he talks to him, and Sanger says, well, what are you going to do if they don't? And it was all about the 4 points that Trump made about what he expected out of the nuclear deal. And Sanger said, well, what if they don't adhere to this? What if he said, drag their feet? And Trump said to them, he said, well, I can always restart the war, or I can put a U.S. force in the region to bring order, and they'll have to pay us 20% of the total gross revenues of the region. And so, what? Where is this going? So those two things happened. The other thing I want to say is, I call it strategic patience, okay? You don't hustle the East. And if you look at your enemy's side of the table, they're saying Trump could be gone in 90 to 120 days. He might lose his government. There's a good chance there. We'll take the risk. The risk is okay for us because we just want to survive. The IRGC's goal is to survive. That's all they want to do is survive. And they've showed the world, essentially, we've held off Israel in the U.S. for 4 months now. Look at us. So there's nothing in this agreement that is give to get that I can see. They're just Iran's continuing demands for money. They're broke. They need cash. I mean, it's awful.
So, Edward, what do you think should have happened with Iran? How would you have liked to see this play out?
The blockade was really strong. The keeping that their leverage was the strait, keeping the strait closed. Our leverage was, the blockade, and again, a give forget.
So you say
stick.
you would have kept that blockade in place and squeezed the Iranian economy even more, and
yes,
even though the
absolutely.
strait stayed closed, and that was harming our economy and the world economy.
Well, actually, oil prices were starting to come down. They were building land bridges to move oil out of the country. There were other things that were happening, and the country was on the brink. It's basically bankrupt. 90% of their imports came through those ports. We had them closed. This whole thing is just really, really, really a mess. And again, it plays into Iran's their strategy of.
Their strategy. Everybody of their entire leadership is dead. The Navy is gone. The Air Force, if they ever had one, is gone. The missiles, all that shit. And these people think that the fucking, it's like the Black Knight in Monty Python with no arms and legs going, I'm not gone yet. Fucking stupid.
Strategic patience. They can wait us out, and they're prepared to take the risk.
Okay, so Edward, I've got for you that
wait us out,
that piece
right?
where Jake Tapper of CNN is talking to Vice President Vance about the agreement. Now, this is before the text became public this morning, so take a look.
I know that you're planning on releasing the text later at the end of the week after some of the smaller issues have been reached and worked out. I do want to ask a couple things about it, though. Does this deal at all address Iran's ballistic missile programs or Iran's funding of groups that the U.S. government classifies as terrorists, such as Hamas or Hezbollah or the Houthis?
Well, it does, Jake, because what the agreement does is fundamentally set up a structure whereby if the Iranians behave like a normal country, then we want to treat them like a normal country and welcome them into the world economy. What paragraph 1 of the agreement says is effectively that Iran commits itself, just as the United States commits itself, to regional peace and stability. And part of that, Jake, is that the Iranians have to stop funding violent terrorist organizations. They have to stop funding regional instability. But the important thing about this agreement, Jake, is that everything from what Iran gives us on the nuclear program, and of course, that's the most important thing, is the commitment, verifiable, to never building a nuclear weapon. All of these things come along with benefits if Iran delivers and nothing if Iran doesn't deliver. So we certainly expect that as part of our broader agreement, Jake, Iran is going to stop funding terrorist organizations. Most importantly, they're going to have a verifiable commitment to not building a nuclear weapon. But the good thing about the way that we've set this up is that we have the leverage here. We have the ability to welcome them into the world economy if they perform. We also have the ability to say, you know what, you don't get anything if you don't meet your end of the obligation.
That was yesterday evening, the vice president speaking to CNN about the Iran deal that has now become public as of this morning. The other thing that Edward mentioned is that call with the New York Times national security correspondent David Sanger. And this is what we've got for you. If you go to the New York Times website, you will see it's actually a video. So it says, why President Trump called me about Iran. It said a day before the U.S. and Iran signed a framework agreement to end their months-long war, President Trump called David Sanger, White House national security correspondent for the Times, to discuss the arrangement. And that's a video there. This is Bill in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania, Democrat. Bill, we're getting your top news story of the day.
Hello. Yes, I listened to the terms of the understanding that was read recently on air, and I would like to congratulate President Trump on his victory in Iran. Thank you for bringing us back to the situation we were in, I think it was in February before the war. I want to thank him for regime change, which he originally said was an objective, because we now have different faces in charge of Iran in the same regime. I want to thank him for returning money to Iran, which I believe was Iran's money to begin with. And Of course, when President Obama did similar, he was terrible. Now, my congratulations depends on whether or not it's actually signed on Friday. And the way this war goes, a lot could happen between today, Wednesday, and Friday. For one thing, it's contingent on Israel not starting up the war in Lebanon again. And I believe Israel has said they have no intention of letting up on Lebanon. But anyway, I'm glad that President Trump can declare victory, and we, the American people, will all believe him because he is, after all, President of the United States. Thank you.
Let's talk to Rick next in Philadelphia, Independent Line. Hi, Rick.
Hi, good morning. And I was listening to the other callers. All of them had very interesting input. However, nobody seems to remember history. Iran has bombed or attacked 5 countries. 5 countries they've attacked in the last 3 to 4 years. Israel has attacked 5 countries that they have bombed in the last 3 to 4 years. Iran has not attacked nobody prior to that. America make deals since 1953. They've been trying to manipulate and deal with Iran in the way that they felt Iran should be. These are these people's land. This is their government. Why don't you just let them be? You can't just go around the world stealing everybody's resources. And as far as Iran not being trustworthy, when has America ever made a treaty and not lied or broke the treaty? If you don't,
Democrats just hate this country, man. I tell you what, just
don't believe me. Ask the Native Americans.
So
this
terrible.
is a behavior pattern. I don't believe none of it. Thank you.
There you go.
And by the
fucking
way,
leave, pal.
I did mention that President Trump will be holding a news conference today from France before leaving. That is going to be at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And we will show you that live here on C-SPAN so that you can stay with us and take a look at what he says. Peter, Valley Cottage, New York, Republican. You're on the air, Peter.
Yeah, good morning, Mimi. 2 things. As far as the ballroom is concerned, the devil's in the details. I wish you would give a little bit more specifics. We talk about the cost of $600 million.
Peter in New York.
How much of that actually is for the ballroom, which I think is necessary because having these affairs out on the lawn is inappropriate for the biggest economy in the world. And how much is going towards that bunker that they're putting down underneath? Because from my understanding is the president would have to vacate the White House and go to a safe place if there's some kind of an emergency. This would allow the president to stay on site and be protected. And as far as this agreement with Iran, this is just a memorandum of understanding. There's no actual details as far as the final deals are concerned. The thing is that we were only interested in neutralizing Iran's military capabilities. Israel is concerned about regime change. They want the mullahs out of power, the IRGC. And what disturbed me about the whole thing was the timing of it. Provided that they're telling us the truth, because we all remember George W. Bush and the weapons of mass destruction, and Prime Minister Netanyahu has been talking about the Iranians being on the brink of having a nuclear weapon for the last 8 to 10 years. So provided they're telling us the truth, I think the action was good. It's just the fact that it was done now when all the things that the Republicans did to try to get inflation under control and correct the economy and get things up and rolling. This just put a monkey wrench in it. And me as a Republican, the timing of it is why couldn't the president just wait until after the midterm elections, or have done it a year ago? The Israelis, according to Secretary of State Rubio, he said that the Israelis told him that they were going to attack regardless of what we wanted to do. That's a matter of the tail wagging the dog. So that's how I see it. Thanks a lot.
Peter, going back to your first point about the ballroom and the security. So the understanding is that you remember the $1 billion request for the security provisions for the ballroom going to Congress. That did not pass, but that is separate from the $600 million that the Washington Post is reporting about that they're seeing from the contractor cost estimates. That's the understanding from that.
Is that just the ballroom, or is that the whole thing with the bunker and all the technical equipment that goes with it?
Right. So I'm not clear on that, to be honest, but I know that there was $1 billion for security. Now, what does that $1 billion include? What does the $600 million include? I'm not clear on that, so I don't want to say something incorrect.
Yeah, because maybe the $300 million does cover the ballroom, but it doesn't cover the other part. So, the devil's in the details. So we need a little more clarity on that. But I think the ballroom was necessary. Okay. I mean, it's ridiculous otherwise. All right, thanks a lot.
Okay. And just more on that article from the Washington Post. It says, when the White House first announced the plan to build a ballroom on July 31st, 2025, it said in a news release that contributions from Trump and, quote, other Patriot donors, that's in quotations, would cover the cost of the project, which it said would be $200 million. The White House added that the United States Secret Service will provide the necessary security enhancements and modifications. There was no mention of an underground military bunker. That was at the time of its announcement. Michael, Colorado Democrat, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah. Publication that they finally put out on the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, DFC, which was put together, years ago, but they absorbed all the money from USAID and other. They get up about, quite a bit of billions, and they basically lend money out to small countries, but they also can lend out money to wealthy countries. And it's a program, it's approved. And one thing that I'd like to talk about a little bit of the background is the CEO, Benjamin Black. He has a lot of qualifications. He's the son of Leon Black, who founded Apollo Management Corporation. The only problem I have with this deal is that Leon Black paid off Epstein, $185 million, had to step down as the CEO of Apollo, and there's some contact with his son in there. And it's sort of like, the wealthy, they get in. And, it's he's the chief executive officer, and it's just the funding for the wealthy in other countries to be able to build things in their economy. I'm sure Trump is possibly looking at doing his hotel in the Gaza, and I think he always wanted a hotel in Moscow, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Ukraine is doing a good enough job but the Russians are always pretty stubborn. They like to just get as much as they can. So all I'm doing is basically calling in to inform people they should read it. It's they can pull the publication from Congress.gov, and also just sort of look at who is running the whole thing.
All right. Well, Michael, you did mention the Epstein files. Vice President J.D. Vance was on The View yesterday. His book has just come out, so he was talking about his book, but he did mention the administration's handling of the Epstein files.
I am frankly, kind of a conspiracy theory on the Epstein stuff. And that story says that that's one of the things that's true, is that some people called me a conspiracy theory on the Epstein stuff. And I love Susie, but absolutely, she thinks I'm a conspiracy theorist on the Epstein stuff, because I think that it's crazy that you had this guy who is clearly a sex predator who is hanging out with a lot of very wealthy and powerful people. Like, that really bothered me. I don't know what's there, of course. Nobody knows exactly what happened unless you were there, but that really bothered me, and I wanted to have full transparency. What I disagree with is the idea that the White House wasn't committed to full transparency. We have to remember, like, I was inside the room when some of these decisions were made. The Epstein Files Transparency Act, the one that the president signed, the one that led to all these files that we're seeing, the emails. By the way, again, sorry, Joe, I do have to defend my boss. I know you guys don't always appreciate this, but, you know, one of the things you see in the Epstein emails is that Jeffrey Epstein hated Donald Trump, and that Donald Trump literally reported Jeffrey Epstein to the police.
Okay,
that's one of the things that came out of these
files. They were best friends for about a decade. And remember, he signed that Transparency Act under duress when some Republican women, congresswomen like Lauren Boebert, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, did not give in to his pressure of not signing. He brought Lauren Boebert into the Situation Room to pressure her into caving on not voting for that bill.
So let me respond to that. So
that's all true.
Let me respond to that. So number one is, yes, Donald Trump, and he said this, he knew Jeffrey Epstein back in the 1980s. He also threw Jeffrey Epstein out of his club when he found out he was a creep and reported him to the police. That's something that the media often misses when it reports the story. They tell the fact that they knew each other in the 80s, which the president himself admits. They ignore the fact that he narked on him to the police and led ultimately to JeffreyEpstein's downfall. To that point, Anna, you know the Republican Party. Well, it's one of the things that led to law enforcement investigation. But on the point that you made,
it was allegedly over a real estate deal that they got into a fight over.
But the email says actually
they didn't just know each other. Let's just be truthful and transparent here. They didn't just know each other. They were incredibly close friends.
He reported him to the police. That's what I'm saying. That is objective. That is objectively true.
We're getting your top news story of the day. Let's go to Gail in Arkansas,
we'll play the rest of
Republican.
that.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mimi. Thank you for taking my call. And I'd like to say I do think you are very neutral. You do a really good job of staying neutral on the show. So the topic being your favorite, your most important news story. Something I haven't heard a lot about, and I work a lot, so maybe I've missed it. But one, it seems to me that a lot of people have forgotten Iran jumping, when the Hamas jumped out of their helicopters and airplanes and attacked those poor young people at the music festival. And that just was horrific.
October 7th.
And also, no matter what they say, the different agreements they do, I do see on the news where they're still shooting missiles at Israel. So, but my topic would be, I would like to know if there's still, because the last time I saw anything on that, the prisoners that they took was, in the beginning, I think it was well over 100. And the last thing I saw was maybe a couple of women being released, and then there was a story about a young man that was presumed dead. Are they all presumed dead now? Because it seems like we've forgotten about that.
You're talking about the Israeli hostages that were held by Hamas. That has all been whoever was alive has all been released, Gail. And then the bodies have been returned.
How many were presumed dead?
I don't have the final numbers. Sorry, I don't have that.
Well, it seems when everybody's talking about, Iran attacking or not attacking and making deals with them, that kind of came out of the blue at everyone, and everyone seems to have forgotten that they are capable and they plan attacks such as that. And anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I've got to get to work. Thank you, Mimi.
Okay, have a good day at work. Kelly, Pennsylvania line for Democrats. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning. This isn't really about a top story that I have, but I saw something last week on C-SPAN that kind of threw me for a loop, and I was wondering if anybody else caught this. Representative Tim, I think it's pronounced Burchett, from
Burchett,
Tennessee.
Yep. Burchett. Yep.
Okay. They were coming out of a meeting, and he looked over at some of his fellow Republicans, and he said, "There's hash brownies in there." And then he saw the reporters there, and he goes, "Oh, what can I do for you? What do you want to ask me?" And he was
wait,
like,
he said what? Are there what brownies?
He said there are hash brownies in there. And I thought, what in the world? And I rewound it and listened again, and that's exactly what he said. There are hash brownies in there. And then he saw the reporter standing there, and he was also taking his tongue like across his teeth, like he just had eaten one or something. And I thought, how can they be using drugs?
They're called hash browns. Potatoes. Idiot.
Like that. I was really shocked. So I don't know if anybody else caught that, but I just thought that was quite an eye-opener.
All right, Kelly, let's talk to Bill next in Newark, Ohio, Republican. Good morning, Bill.
Hey, good morning, Mimi. Listen, I think the most incredible story that nobody seems to care about is we have 6 to 8 criminals that tried to assassinate the president and the vice president last Monday night at the wrestling exhibition. The FBI got wind of it and shot it down. They were going to use drones to fly in there and shoot people and kill our president. You don't think that's the top story, America? What is wrong with you? Have the Democrats poisoned your minds so much?
So,
any comments?
So, Bill, we did talk about that. Caller did bring that up. We did read an article. I have another one here. From NPR, plot to attack White House UFC event foiled. According to the FBI director, Kash Patel said agents disrupted a plan to attack Sunday's UFC event at the White House. And it says, it continues. But anyway, that's at NPR News. It's also on the front page of today's Washington Times, and I showed that. Here is Robert, Greenville, Texas, Independent Line. Good morning.
Good morning. This isn't really about the top news of the week. I apologize. I just wanted to kind of voice in to American people that we need to restore democracy in this country, where we put forth the best candidates for the positions moving forward and slowly change the arc. The direction this country is going in by restoring some democracy.
And how would you like to do that? What democracy do you feel like needs restoring?
The best candidate, male, female, doesn't matter. It can rise to the top. And the key to this whole thing is the American people need to reevaluate and question the idea of Citizens United and taking some of the corporate money, the big money, out of politics, so we get back to we base our decisions not on the advertising and the media and the influence of who the richest people.
People want to try to change what politics has evolved over time. Like it's just complaining about the weather is what it is. It is what it is. Get involved, participate. That's what this show is for me. Instead of screaming at the TV, I can scream at this microphone and camera and nobody watches. So please watch. And if you're watching, like and subscribe. I appreciate it.
In this country, decide on who we should have as our candidates and restore it back to its original foundation. The Constitution never talked about political parties. It was the best candidate in an election. And if you take Citizens United off the table and you take the influence of big money off the table, I think we would restore that balance that once made us a great and aspiring country to the rest of the world. And I want the American people to think about that. because right now we are no longer in control. And it's been the big money dictating who we vote for and what we get, regardless, Republican or Democrat. They're all being controlled by the same interest groups.
All right, Robert. We got that. Chester, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Democrat, you're on the air.
Baton Rouge.
Yes, I'd like to make a comment. First of all, we have too many norms in this country and not enough laws with teeth. I'd like to ask one question of the Republicans in the country. If Donald Trump decided to paint the White House red, would that be enough to let you know that it's time to get rid of this clown? Thank you.
John in St. Louis, Missouri. Line for Democrats. You're on the air.
Hi, this is John. Okay, Epstein files. We're yet to see the Epstein files. Once we realize that J.D. Vance is Pablo Escobar's son and Jeffrey Epstein's illegitimate daughter, along with Ghislaine Maxwell.
Okay, John, got that. And here is former Vice President Kamala Harris. She's reacting
have
to
our
news
first tinfoil hat caller.
the DOJ investigating Gavin Newsom and his wife. Take a look.
Last time that we talked on camera was February 2024, and I watched that interview again, and you predicted at the time, you said that if President Trump is reelected, he will use the Department of Justice to go after his political opponents.
Yeah.
Governor Newsom in California says that's happening to him now and his wife. For people that may not know, the governor says that there is that the Trump administration, the DOJ, is investigating him, especially his wife. Governor Walz and your running mate says that that's a BS investigation. We don't know that much about it yet, but what do you think? Do you think that's a BS investigation?
I predicted just about everything that has happened with this administration.
You say I told you so.
I don't say I told you so. That's kind of obnoxious. I don't say that.
Oh,
but
my God, your voice is
the
obnoxious,
reality is,
lady.
many of us predicted. And it didn't require much creative thought because he told us most of what we knew would happen, including that he would go after his political enemies using the Department of Justice.
They went after him with the Department of Justice, and now when we investigate them for what they did, it's weaponization. You know what? At some point, just say, I don't care, and just go for them. Who cares?
I am not surprised that he may be using the Department of Justice to go after.
Thank God she didn't win. Can you imagine what the 250th anniversary would be? How terrible this country is over a quarter of a millennium. Give me a break. Man, we dodged a bullet, literally.
A political enemy in the current governor of California. And this is why I do believe this, upon many other examples of what is essentially, you're going to ask me questions about the current president, I'm going to be candid, what is essentially the most callous, corrupt, and incompetent presidential administration America's ever experienced. And for that reason, I have no question or doubt that we will win the midterms, and it will be a result of people of every background and political association who will contribute to that outcome.
That was the former vice president yesterday. More on the plot from NBC News. FBI arrests 5 in alleged plot to attack White House UFC events with explosives, laden drones, and guns. It says law enforcement officials disrupted a plot to attack the Ultimate Fighting Championship event at the White House over the weekend. It says that conspirators discussed flying drones loaded with explosives over the event and then shooting into the fleeing crowd. 5 have been arrested across the country, and investigators recovered firearms, ammunition, encrypted text message of 19 people suspected to have taken part. They shared maps and photos of the area who talked about the need for escape routes after the attack, according to court documents. It says the investigation is ongoing. Let's talk to John in Florence, Massachusetts, Independent Line. Good morning, John.
Hello, yes, I thought nobody was above the law, so I just want to say it seems like everybody's above the law as long as they're a Democrat. I remember when all the DAs like Fannie Willis and Alvin Bragg, when they said they were going to get Trump before he even got into office, and then suddenly came up with things, and nobody worried about anything being above the law. But my top news story, or what I think about, is the all sides did a study on all these different news organizations, and I don't know if you know that Google, for your search engine, you're living in a bubble. They get 74% of their sources from left-leaning sources or Democrat sources and 1% from right-leaning sources. So you're just going to keep getting those things while you can't find anything. And Apple and Yahoo, the same thing, and Bing and from Microsoft also have less than 5% from right-leaning sources and over 75% from left-leaning sources. So you're not really getting much of a vast thing to look up things like that. And I wonder why we don't treat all the different Democrats that went against voting for Trump for impeachment or the Democrats and got thrown out of their party, like Tulsi Gabbard or Dean Phillips or Kristen Sinema or Joe Manchin and now John Fetterman, or how they were going to go after Chuck Schumer for voting to get the extension the last time. I mean, the Democrats go after their own. It's just a different way that you present it. And if you look at all sides and they rate all these different things like C-SPAN or any of these other ones, they say you guys give mostly facts, but you tell it from a Democratic perspective, from their side of it, and you don't give the other side of it. It's absolutely ridiculous.
And that's what we do here, folks. So this caller could not be more right, but that's why we count this stuff up. And if you tune into the follow-up show of this, which is the Daily Breakdown, it goes through the stuff that we found. And then over time, as we build a database up and we have 30 shows, then we can say how many Democrats called, how many, and we can actually look and see what's going on. So that's what we've devised here. And it's always a work in progress. We're trying to always improve our quality and systems. And I hope that you're watching, and if you made it 1 hour into this video, put a comment down below.
And as for people not having experience to be in government, like they were saying about Spencer Pratt and people, Vladimir Zelensky was a clown. He was a comedian, and they made him the president. They haven't had an election in 2 cycles now, and he's running their country. Is he doing a good job? Because you guys sure like to make fun of a reality TV star like President Trump and say that he shouldn't be the president, or any of the people on his staff that don't have experience. Zelensky is a clown. He was a comedian. So why don't you get a little perspective on that? And why don't you tell things, like I say, every story you're getting from Google when you try to look up things, why don't you go to DuckDuckGo that has a fair search engine? You can see that Google, 74% left-leaning.
Yep, got that, John. Joseph in Vermont, Republican, you're next.
Wow, that's a bit to follow. Mimi, I'm going to switch gears here. I want to talk about a news conference I saw with Elon Musk the other day. And he was talking about how he wants to build
might be our first Vermonter.
these data centers in space. And when you think about it, with all that Elon Musk has got going with SpaceX and Starlink and all these things, he's like in a perfect position to do that. And because there's been a lot of controversy surrounding the data centers, meaning using water and the power they use and everything else, all these things go away if you put it up in space. And he seems to have all the tools at his fingertips to do it. And they'll be powered by solar panels from the sun, which will never shut off. It'll be cooled by the depths of space, so they don't have to worry about overheating. All you got to do is put it in the shade, and it's 200 degrees below zero. So it sounds like a perfect solution to this whole data center problem. And I just hope other people, look at it and think about it and just think we should be, with what's going on now with this giant push to bring AI online and everything, it seems like the perfect opportunity.
All right, Joseph. And with that, we'll end our first segment. Later in the program, we will talk about Iran.
All right, that's it for the first open forum segment of the review, and then we're gonna tune in. Let's see if I can get this up without being all fiddly. Okay. What happened?
Washington Journal continues.
Here we
Welcome back to
go.
Washington
Round
Journal.
2.
We're in open forum until the end of the program. We mentioned that the president will be leaving France today at the G7 summit there, and he will be holding a press conference at 10:30. So stay with us here on C-SPAN to watch that live once that gets underway. And we will take your calls until the end of the program at 10. Here's Brian, Yorkville, Illinois, Independent Line. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Mimi. I wanted to talk to the last guest, but I'm going to make two comments or 2 points in regard to what he was talking about. He made a comment about a country using a nuclear weapon. Thought it was something to the effect that they would only use it in that regard. That's ever used a nuclear weapon in war, to my knowledge, and we used it almost as soon as we developed
Struggle
it,
streaming.
so as to shorten the war. We were already winning it. We were preparing to invade Japan, but for obvious reasons and good reasons to me, we cut down on loss of life, American loss of life, by dropping those 2 bombs.
Drop the bomb on me.
I think we got to lose this moralizing that's been done in terms of us compared to Iran and in that regard. Secondly, as far as what's going on with this memo of understanding, I can see this as a ploy by our narcissist in chief to just have a win in his pocket when he showed up at the G7. To my mind, he hasn't accomplished anything with the memo or anything else that's happened in the last few weeks. And a narcissist, a guy that can only talk about himself, shows up at a meeting of his peers who he's called paper lions?
Paper tiger.
Yeah.
Paper lion.
Where the logic of that doesn't make sense to me. What makes more sense is Trump telling his people, hey, we need something, okay? Let's wrap this up. We got the G7 coming up. Let's go this route. And I don't think it's any more substantial or involved than that.
All right, Brian.
I don't think.
Well, let's move on to Greg, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Democrat, you're on the air, Greg.
Yes, good morning. I was just wanted to call in. I had a question for the gentleman, Mr. Nasser, but he's no longer there, so that's okay. So I'll just make a comment. Our president is over in Europe, and I'm just wondering how much this Donald Trump has actually damaged the prestige of America in the eyes of the whole world. He gets up there and he uses the foulest language imaginable to refer to a former president, and people have to be losing respect for this man. I've lost all respect for him. And the thing is, I think when the Iranians realized that he could not muster the rest of the NATO and the European countries to get behind him in his escapades and adventurism in Iran, they immediately recognized what the dynamics of the situation is, and that is America no longer can claim the mantle of being the leader of the free world. It's really the damage that this man is doing to our country in the eyes of the rest of the world is incalculable. And before long, I think there's going to be an open rebellion in Europe and NATO against this man, because he is really unqualified, and I just can't imagine someone, the president of the United States, referring to another president as a stupid son of a you-know-what. It's appalling, and I can't figure out how people still can relate to this man, given how despicable his behavior is.
All right,
and
Greg.
That's all.
They tried to use the federal government to put him in jail and bankrupt him. I think he deserves to be a little pissed.
Yep, we got that. Fred, West Palm Beach, Florida, a Republican. Good morning, Fred.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. You know, the previous speaker was obviously extremely well informed and articulate individual, but he painted Iran as a pragmatic political entity. You know, I was really confused because he seemed to neglect entirely the religious zealotry that governs that country. Now,
South
my
African.
opinion, religious zealotry is the most virulent form of government and of opposition. There's no compromise. These people will carry on doing what they intended. I'm no expert on the Quran, but however, I believe that it does state that if the infidel, i.e. the Israelis, should take any of your land, they must be exterminated. And this is the basis of the entire foundation of Iran, that they are following a religious dictate. And you can't start talking about existential threats from this or from that, because that's just fluff. Thank you. That's my
Fred,
comment.
Fred, there's something that I found interesting in his foreign policy article about this being a new kind of, you know, the revolutionaries were the ones that took over in 1979, and now this is now the second generation, if you will, the ones that were kids during the revolution and that lived through the Iran-Iraq war. I think you should take a look at that. I'm not saying that they're not religious zealots at all, but I'm just saying that they have a different approach. This is what our guest was arguing in his article. So it's at Foreign Policy if you'd like to take a look at that. Robert in Naples, Florida, Independent Line. Good morning, Robert.
How you doing? I just wanted to verify, did Donald Trump and J.D. Vance use the auto pen to sign this memorandum of understanding?
Well, Robert, it hasn't been signed. It should be signed on Friday in Switzerland.
No, they said they signed the memorandum, not the actual treaty.
Oh, no, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Did you have anything else?
No, thank you.
Victoria, Quincy, Massachusetts, Democrat. Hi, Victoria.
Hello.
Hi, go right ahead. You're on the air.
Oh, hello. Well, I have been following the war in Ukraine from the time it first started, about the 5 or 6 days after it started, and I was just it was a picture I was taken with. It seemed to fill the whole world because it seemed to be such a linchpin of everything that was happening, everything that was going on, and you know, I learned so much. I was following it on Twitter, and Twitter had I followed it on the Kyiv Independent, and I can't honestly say I read every article. I didn't have time, but every day for years I read the headlines, and you know, it just, we were right there with them. We were right there with our European allies, and it was so important. And you know, I am a Democrat. I voted for President Biden, and when he was following it, he was doing a bang-up job until the very end, and then he got nervous, and I think he had a lot of health problems sort of accumulating. And people were saying he was demented. He really wasn't demented at that point. My mother has dementia, and I recognize some of the signs. But he was just right on target. It's just that people were making him hesitant, and he was letting them do it. So he was losing a little bit of his resolve and strength. And he sort of disappointed him. There's a major fund that Ukraine was supposed to get from us, and he was giving it, and then he just weakened and didn't give it, and they left it up to Trump to make good on it, and he did not make good on it. And they were left in the lurch, and then Trump started grabbing at the East for allies. I mean, people like Z, dictators. I mean, he wanted to be a dictator among dictators is what he wanted to be, a strong man among strong men. And he wanted people like Z and
guys, I didn't know it was on
Putin.
the orbit.
He loved Putin, and it was so discouraging.
All right,
and so
Victoria,
frustrating.
I got to move on. Doris,
we got to go, honey.
in Winder,
Jesus.
Georgia, Independent Line. You're on the air, Doris.
Yes, I'd
That's pronounced Winder, Georgia. Winder, not Winder.
love to tell you everything I want to say, but we don't have much time. But this is getting back to biblical information. Been there for thousands of years, where it lays out exactly what's about to happen to this world and these people that think they want to run it. He says very clearly, I will bring to ruin those ruining the earth. There was another scripture that describes Trump to a T. Says this man will appear on the world scene full of lies and deceit. And the Bible clearly says, turn away from those people.
So, Doris, relate that to...
Let me give you one more, please.
Okay.
One more scriptures. Look this up and really think about what it means. It's 1 John, 3rd chapter. That's towards the end of the Bible. It says very clearly, the whole obligation of man is to fear the true God and obey his commandments.
And so
Nowhere does it say
relate that to what's
know,
going on now in politics.
Yep,
that's what I'm saying. It is
Winder,
happening.
Georgia.
People have disregarded the laws of the Bible that would govern this whole world if people would just pay attention and go along with it.
Got it.
Instead, they're looking at this evil man that wants to run the show. He's not going to get away with it.
All right, Doris. Jimmy, Independent Line in Brooklyn, New York. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yes, for many years, Iran under the Shah, before the terrorists took over, Iran was a bulwark against Soviet expansionism in that area of the world. So the Soviets had all kind of campaigns to topple the Shah. They got successful when Carter was president. Remember, under Carter, the Soviets toppled 5 or 6 countries. Nicaragua and Iran were part of it. Remember, the Democrats tried to lock up Oliver North, who tried to keep Nicaragua and Iran free. And now you have the spokesperson, the guy, does he get paid, this guy Nasser, Vali Nasser? He was an Iranian spokesperson. Now, I know C-SPAN is supposed to be fair, so I hope you are. I hope you have somebody else on, an Iranian particularly, who could show the other side of the story.
Wait, Jimmy, just to go back to what you said, Oliver North tried to keep Iran free?
Right.
That was during the Islamic regime. That was during the Reagan administration.
Right. That's when the Iranian government was being toppled under President Carter.
Hold on. Oliver North was during the Reagan administration, which was during the Islamic regime.
Right. But he was trying to reach moderates in Iran. He didn't know that there were probably no moderates in Iran at the time. Look, the world communist movement is stronger now since the rumor, the myth, the hoax that we defeated communism. You could hear from your callers, a lot of them, their fanatical hatred of Trump. This is not normal American opinion. This is the impact of the communist movement in America. So I hope you have somebody on your show one time, maybe somebody like Trevor Loudon or Jeff Nyquist or Jimmy from Brooklyn, somebody who understands the communist movement and could lay out another part of the reality that's going on now using enemy documents.
All right, and that's Jimmy from Brooklyn. And yesterday there was a confirmation hearing in the Senate. Here is Democrat Patty Murray questioning Deputy Director of the OMB about President Trump's commitment to preserve Social Security. Take a look.
Let me ask about another issue. Last week, we learned that the Social Security Trust Fund will run out of money in just 6 years, 3 months sooner than previously estimated. When he was pressed on this, Speaker Johnson insisted that entitlements should be, quote, adjusted. Well, I've been around long enough to know that adjustment means cuts. You've worked for Republicans like Chip Roy, who support benefit reductions. Elon Musk, who had free reign over the federal government, has called Social Security a, quote, Ponzi scheme. So it's kind of no surprise that Trump's latest budget request did not include any solvency proposal for Social Security. Why doesn't OMB view Social Security solvency as an important enough issue to include in a budget request?
Senator, I appreciate the question. And as the director testified as on a similar question when he was up here, President Trump has been immensely clear on his support for protecting Social Security and Medicare, and that will continue to be the North Star for this administration moving forward.
But nothing in the budget request, and for all of our knowledge, for decades, presidents have presented a full budget, including projections, and proposals for mandatory programs like Social Security. So this administration simply is failing to do its most important work. I got to guess because they don't care. You know, Democrats have introduced a number of proposals to address the solvency crisis without cutting benefits. We haven't seen anything from this administration. Doing nothing means that seniors are going to see a 22% cut in their Social Security benefits in 2032. That's about $10,000 a year per couple. So we expect this administration to do in the budget what previous presidents have done and present us a proposal.
That was yesterday. You can see that full hearing on our website, cspan.org. By the way, the president will be holding a press conference. It's scheduled for 10:30 a.m. Eastern this morning from France. And we will bring that to you. So we're going to go ahead and stay with you here on the Journal and continue to take your calls.
We're going into overtime, folks.
Hopefully that'll be on time, but we will we'll be monitoring that and bring it to you as soon as the president starts. Dave in Las Vegas, Nevada, Independent Line. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning. First of all, I want to say Donald Trump is out of his mind. When he murdered those people in the Caribbean, didn't declare war, and killed those survivors, that is murder. When he killed those people in Minnesota, had his goon squad go in and murder those people in Minnesota, he's murdering his own people over a misdemeanor, and all he does is fraud. And he's protecting the biggest child rapist there has ever been, putting her in a cozy place. This guy is out of his mind. He's not a president. He tried to overthrow the government. He goes against the Constitution. He's getting rid of all the jobs, anything that's good. This guy's ruining this country. Everybody hates him. Everybody knows he's a child molester. They won't even show the pictures of him with those girls. He should have been the first one called up. He is out of his mind. He's got dementia. 37 psychiatrists say he's got dementia. And the news media doesn't ask him any tough questions. You think you can commit war crimes and get away with it? Hezbollah bombed that school. Oh, he bombed the school, killed 150 girls in Iran, and everybody thinks it's okay. Little kids with a missile without evidence. And now he's going after everybody that goes by the law. He wants to arrest them because his mind is warped. This guy is out of his mind. If you don't get the Republicans out of here, democracy is gone. Everything that's good is gone. He's starving his own people. He starved those kids in Africa.
Take a breath, asshole.
Aid to all those kids in Africa.
Okay, Dave.
Man,
Let's go to Butch,
Dave, guess
Knoxville,
what? You're
Tennessee,
on
Republican. Good morning, Butch.
You're going to make the Daily Breakdown.
Yes. I would like to tell people that the Muslims don't give a dang about Israel. They don't give a dang about the United States. Their purpose is to destroy all the Jews, all the Christians, to prove that they have a true God, that their God is a true God, which Allah is not a God. The only God is the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. And people are so scared, like Europe. That's why they wouldn't help Trump. They got so many migrants up there that are Muslim that they would start fighting and chopping people's heads off. People are cowards. They are afraid to face the truth.
And here's Marcel in Brooklyn, New York. Independent, you're on Open Forum.
Yes, good morning. I just would like to thank the C-SPAN person, I forget her name, that I'm watching right now, for doing such a good job in the last section in her discussion and questions.
Well, thank you.
To Valley Nasser. I happen to have studied that area when I was in college, and I thought his presentation was very straightforward and, unfortunately for us, a cold glass of water on our whole approach to that area. So I'd like that's all I'd like to say. And
Okay.
I appreciate.
Thank you, Marcel. Danny in Hopwood, Pennsylvania, Republican. Hi, Danny.
Hey, thank you for C-SPAN. Calls are really wild today. There's a lot of it's just like that's free speech, man. These people who walk among us. But anyways, I gotta say I'm really not happy about the war. I'm a 27-year-old. I can't afford anything, man. And we spent all of that money on the war to pretty much get the same thing that we already had. And Donald Trump killed all those children.
So, Danny, okay, Danny's gone. And this is Harrison in New York, Democrat.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm calling to just express a few things that I'm thinking about.
Okay.
Actually, one is abortion. Now, people speak about abortion, killing babies, but yet and still, they kill people every day. They go in other countries and kill people. And actually, one of the commandments is I should not kill, regardless. If someone is doing something wrong, you put them away and you take care of them, or, take them out of society. And people think you by eliminating abortions, that solves the problem. It doesn't. People are killing here every day in the United States and all the other countries. They're killing them every day, and they're killing them by the thousands. And some people talk about killing and laugh at it. This is not a joke. Thou shalt not kill. And the lies that are told every day about different things is ridiculous. Actually, when you speak about different things, there's a reason for it. For instance, over in the other countries, over in Gaza, everybody's trying to take the land over there, and they don't admit that people are going there to try to take the land. They go in other countries to take land and the wealth. We should stop doing this. Be more loving, be more giving, and God is watching us. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And also in New York is Rob on the line for Independence. Hello, Rob.
Hello, and I am so glad that I got through, because I am calling to compliment you and C-SPAN for last night showing the sunset parade of the United States Marine Corps at the Iwo Jima Memorial. And I hope everyone who didn't see it, I hope you replay it. It was wonderful. And that they get to juxtapose it with the indelible stain left on the White House grounds from the pure act of thuggery held in a cage on Sunday night. I don't want to dwell on the White House scene, that pig pen, but I do want to thank you so much for letting us watch those United States Marines march at sunset last night, and may you have a blessed day.
Thank you, Rob. And if you did miss that, that's on our website, cspan.org. And on the Republican line, Lady Lake, Florida. Hello, Sonia.
Lady Lake.
I want to say how much I, too, appreciate C-SPAN. I appreciate being able to watch hearings and hear firsthand things that are said so that I don't have to hear secondhand clips. And I know for myself what is going on. I do, I know there's been a lot of compliments to you personally for how you handle different things that are said, but I must say
Lady
that
Lake, that's the
you do
villages.
tend to
The villages.
let people say things that are not necessarily true, and you let them go on and on, like that gentleman who was talking about all of the negative things that are currently happening with President Trump, that supposedly, I can't even remember all of the things that, all of the untruths that he said about, but you didn't even question him on any of them or fact check him on any of them. But there are Republicans who call in and you stop them from what they're saying and cut them off and go on to the next caller. And
so Sonia,
I do.
If you can give me an example, I'll be happy to fact check it. There are also opinions that cannot be fact checked.
That is true. That is true. He was talking about all these pictures of these children. I think he's talking about with Epstein. Pictures of children with the president that people.
Oh my gosh!
And
that's right. There were pictures that were of President Trump with underage girls that was shown to be AI
Sorry
generated.
if I'm making y'all yawn. This is
see, but they were AI generated, but you didn't say.
To be fair, I did not record my first recording of this, so this is the second recording. That's why I'm yawning.
To him, they were AI generated,
Yes.
which means they were not real
I
pictures.
should have. There are pictures that are AI generated that I've seen. I don't know if that's what he was referring to, but yeah, that's it. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and anyway, it's just he was ranting, and it's hard to interrupt because he was, by the time you would have had a chance to say that, he was on to the next 2 or 3 different things. But sometimes when people are just going on and on, but you do a good job, and it is hard during an open forum when people are just going on and on.
Thank you,
but
Sonia.
I do appreciate C-SPAN. You're welcome. Have a great day.
And Chris, Westmont, Illinois, Independent Line. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. See, I have a report. It's called the Inspector General, U.S. Department of Defense Report. It's dated January 8th, 2024. The report number is DODIG-2024-044. It states, evaluation of the DOD internal controls related to patient eligibility and pharmaceutical management within the National Capital Region Executive Medicine Services. And it summarizes, in summary, it's regarding the drug use that the Trump administration used in the first term. And I trust the report because I trust the Defense Department in the first term. And my worries is this is still going on. These guys would prefer to use brand drugs instead of generic, and they threaten people to supply openly without following through. And I'm worried that my issue is, would a good parent want to put their children in a school system or a preschool where the administration and people are on drugs making decisions? And that's my comparison on this. I like to do comparison analysis. And I'm afraid of this administration and the direction we are all going in.
And this is James, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Democrat. James, you're on Open Forum.
Hi. So I was really hoping to talk to your person regarding the Iranian war. And I guess I'd also request they continue to have people to be on that are able to discuss this. I know we're running out of time here. The one thing I wanted to say, it's not really so much about the end of the war or how we're going to end this. I was going to go back to the beginning and explain some things. I think that this started essentially as a surprise attack. I think that Mossad and along with probably our CIA, our intelligence, had knowledge that there was going to be a gathering of the leaders of Iran, and Iran, Mossad or Israel had made a decision to go after that site. because there was going to be the supreme leader and a number of other top-ranked Iranian officials. I also think that the U.S. must have had knowledge about this. Secretary Rubio brought that on in the beginning, saying that we knew that Israel was about to attack Iran. And I think that there was some knowledge also because we had moved assets, including some military assets, bolstering our defense, our ability to go after Iran prior to this.
So what President Trump called an armada, right? So a lot of naval assets. Yes.
One of the things this lends credence to is because if you call it a surprise attack, it also explains why he didn't consult our allies. And also, I think it leads credence of we not having the full expertise is why we might have bombed that children's school. We just didn't do enough. God, I hate to say it, homework in order to avoid situations like that. And then also, once it started, we really were thinking that we were going to remove the top echelon of the Iranian governing party, and that was going to lead to, I don't call it an uprising, but it was going to lead to the change that they were expecting to happen. Thank you.
Let's talk to Mike next. Valley Center, California, Independent Line. Hello, Mike.
Hi. Morning, Mimi. Yeah, I think Trump is the most corrupt president and his administration that this country's ever had. I think he's an habitual liar, and when he gets in trouble, he tends to lie about everything. He's been lying to the American people since COVID, and now I think he's going to try to spin the settlement on the war in Iran. We'll see how that ends up. I don't think he'll tell the truth. He's lying about the ballroom, where he said that the people were going to donate money and pay for that, and it turns out that the taxpayer is going to have to pay about half of it. And what Trump has to say is probably a fool. He is abandoning Ukraine, and he's causing lots of issues with our allies in NATO. I think his foreign policy is made to benefit him and his family. I think when he leaves office, he's going to pardon his kids and his cabinet, and I think down the road there's going to be a lot of investigations, and I think that there'll be a lot of things for him to answer to.
All right, Mike. And if you're wondering why we're still here, we are going to stay with you until the president's press conference in about half an hour. It's scheduled.
All right, folks. So the president comes on just shortly after that, so it's just not worth pushing through that. And let's go ahead and do a quick review of what we've got here on the map. There's I think it was 39 calls, almost 40 calls today we've got. Pardon me. Some of these pins are in the center of the state, so they're kind of stacked on top of each other and you can't see them. But yeah, we had a pretty good review today, pretty even calls. And that's it. So we'll see you over on the Daily Breakdown. Thanks for watching, folks. Like and subscribe and comment. If you made it this far, let me know if you made it this far. I'd like to know that you're watching all the way through. And if you like this kind of stuff, let me know. If you don't, what I can change to make it better. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.